That was in 1987. In 2014, every single state of the union has some provision for concealed carry. Sharply restricted in some places, but every state of the union has some provision for concealed carry. 37 states have shall issue laws. 5 states have gone to constitutional carry, which means people can carry without even applying for a permit. Blood running in the streets? No. Remember? Crime rate has been cut in half in that same time frame. So what in the world happened? Did all of the criminals suddenly decide that they're going to go look for a safer line of work? If you think of the world as a Saturday morning cartoon, I can just picture the rabbit pulling out a firearm and looking and saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Coyote, maybe you should consider vegetarianism. You picked the wrong rabbit today." Some people call that an acute failure of the victim selection process. If you think about it, it only makes sense. If you were at a party and the hostess set out a dish of candy, okay, maybe a vial of M&Ms or Reese's Pieces or something, and she said to you, 5% of these pieces of candy are poisoned. 5% of these pieces of candy will kill you if you eat them, but the other 95% are fine. I'd like a show of hands here. How many people would dive into that candy dish? Okay. I told you 11.1 million people in America. That translates to roughly 5% of eligible adults have concealed carry permits. That's a very interesting correlation. We carry guns because we love our families. We carry guns because we love our communities. We want our communities to be safer. When we make the decision that our lives are worth defending, that our families are worth defending, we find that those crime rates drop, which I think is tremendous. But we also find that our communities become friendlier places. That's because having the firearm allows us to be comfortable, welcoming, and open in situations where we might otherwise be closed off, churlish, suspicious. We can actually be better neighbors when we know that we are prepared to protect ourselves if something goes wrong. Finally, we carry firearms because we love life. When I first started carrying a gun, this happened shortly after I started carrying. I became much more aware of the world around me. And I do not mean that in a negative way. I mean it in the most positive way possible. I made a conscious decision to notice the world, to be present in the moment, not to assign motives to other people, but simply to notice what was happening, simply to notice the world. I found that I was taking time to smell the roses, to cherish the daffodils, and that I was becoming much less likely to step on the bee that was hiding in the clover. Not too long after I started doing this, I had an event. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front, this was an evening when absolutely nothing happened, okay? This was not a call the cops kind of situation. This was an evening when nothing happened. But I'm convinced that nothing happened simply because I had the firearm. It was very, very late at night. I was coming out of a grocery store late at night. And because I was paying attention to the world, I noticed several things. First of all, I noticed it was a beautiful late summer evening. The air smelled wonderful. I could smell they had just mowed the hay on the field across from the Walmart I had walked out of. And so I actually was smelling the hay from that field. And there was a little bit of a breeze, and I looked up and I saw stars overhead. And because I was paying attention to the world, I noticed that 2 men had come out of the store behind me. They weren't very close, but they had come out about the same time that I had, and they were a ways behind me. And what was really interesting was when they came out, one of them kind of hovered in the door and then started wandering the same direction that I was, but just at the front of the building. And the other one kind of darted around the corner of the building real fast, just out of sight. If I hadn't been aware that they had come out of the door together, I wouldn't have known that they were together. I walked to my car, I had my groceries, I'm throwing my groceries in the back seat. And the guy walking along the front of the store, he lights up a cigarette, and I thought, okay, well, that's all that was. He's just gonna light a cigarette, and who knows what the other guy is doing. And just then I noticed the other guy was walking real fast down the whole row of cars. So he ends up over here, this guy ends up over here, and then this guy's walking towards me very fast, this guy's walking toward me very slow, and this guy throws down the cigarette he just lit. They're going to be at my car at the same time. Deserted parking lot, nobody else around. Does anybody here feel good about this situation? Because I tell you, I didn't either. They were still a ways out, but what I did was, I finished throwing the groceries in the back of the car, and I stood up. And I looked that guy in the eye, and then I looked this guy in the eye. And I looked back to this guy, and this guy looked over at that guy and went, and they both turned around and walked back into the building. Told you, nothing happened. Now, what's really interesting is, well, there were a couple of things. I got in the car, I drove about a mile, and then I pulled over and shook. But when I got home, I told the story to my husband, and I said, I don't really understand why they left, because I didn't do anything. I didn't refer to the gun, I didn't yell at them. All I really did was look at them. And my husband looked at me and he said, yeah, honey. He said, but what were you thinking when you looked at them? And I said, backstops. I was thinking about that solid cement block in front of this guy. And I was thinking about the empty parking lot behind that guy. And I was figuring out the angles. And I am convinced that the very fact that I had the firearm meant that I never needed to use it. Didn't draw it. It couldn't even be counted as a defensive gun use for the people who keep track of it. I will tell you that not even drawing the gun, not shooting the gun, actually happens more than 1 million times a year in this country. Different researchers come up with different numbers. It actually varies somewhere between 1.5 million times a year up to about 3 million times a year. That's the most common outcome for concealed carry, is that nothing happens. So we carry because we love our families. We carry because we love our communities. We carry because we love life. I firmly believe that the greatest gift that you can give somebody you love is permission to protect themselves. That can be permission to learn. It can be permission to maybe go buy a gun, honey. A huge number of people have ended up in circumstances where they didn't feel that they had that permission. I'm going to leave you with one more story. And this is the story of a woman named Sarah McKinley. Sarah was 18 years old. Her husband had just died the week before. He died of cancer. She was at home with their 3-month-old baby when 2 men tried to get into her house. One of the men was armed with a 12-inch hunting knife. Both of them were yelling through the door and telling her graphically what they were going to do when they got in. This young lady shoved a couch up against the door. The door was already locked, but she shoved a couch up against the door. She gave the baby a bottle, she grabbed a handgun, she grabbed a shotgun, and she called 911. She would be on the phone with 911 for more than 20 minutes before the cops arrived. During that time, she asked the dispatcher a very important question. She's sitting there She's kind of barricaded behind the door. She says to the dispatcher, she says, "I've got 2 guns and my baby is here with me. If he comes through the door, he's trying to break in. If he comes through the door, can I shoot him?" Dispatchers are not supposed to answer that question. The right answer for the dispatcher is, "No, ma'am, wait for the cops." But Sarah McKinley was very fortunate because she asked the right person, and she had enough time to ask that question. She asked that question, and the dispatcher replied, "I can't tell you what to do, ma'am, but you do whatever it takes to protect that baby." Because she was on the phone so long, because it took the cops so long to get there, she did indeed have to do whatever it took to protect herself and to protect that baby. She was very, very fortunate because she had enough time to ask, and because she asked the right person, that person who gave her permission to protect herself, to protect her baby. Right now, tonight, I would very much like to give you all a gift. It's just from me. If you are inclined later, I suggest that you give this same gift to the people that you came with, to the people that you care about. It's simply this: you have permission to protect your life. You have permission to protect your life. You have permission to protect your life. So when we carry guns, it's about love. It's about loving our families. It's about loving our communities. It's about loving life. I want you, as you're watching the fashion show tonight, we're going to get very, very excited about it. I want you to think about that permission, and I want you to carry that with you. I want you to remember that wherever you go, your life is valuable, your life is precious, your life is worth defending. Thank you very much. Microphone. There you are.
Great. You know, I want to say that just a few short years ago, prior to groups like A Girl and a Gun and Realize FAC were around, we were very limited in our concealed carry options. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you've noticed, but women have very unique bodies, different proportions, and definitely different needs and wardrobe styles. And so, in fact, I would venture to say that if we had a concealed carry fashion show, 10 years ago, it might have looked something like this. Music, please. Morning wear. Very nice. Evening wear. Hard to find the gun, isn't it? Swimwear. Yes. Very nice. That's right, ladies. There weren't many choices, and no choices is no fun. And so tonight, with the options that we have tonight, today, September 17th, 2014, Realize Firearms Coalition and the Northeastern chapter of Ohio's Girl and a Gun would like to present to you the Ladies Concealed Carry Fashion Show.
Okay, Maestro, we'd like some music. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our models as soon as I can see one getting posed up and into her spot. Okay, this is Billy. And Billy's wearing a gorgeous, embroidered, lace-covered, corset quality, elastic-based, which hugs her upper thigh. So there's your secret. Where is it at? That would be where it's at. She's got silicone grippers along the top and the bottom to keep this thigh holster securely in place. She doesn't need a belt or straps, and it'll hold a variety of small guns. Next is Elliot. Elliot is carrying the medium Cheyenne red deer cow leather. And that bag is a traditional style bag with lots of space. The Cheyenne works well with a busy schedule. It includes one large main compartment and 6 smaller compartments to organize. Has specialized features. It's available in a semi-custom construction basis. You can get it in whatever color, whatever style, whatever leather that you would like it to be. And it's shown here, it has a matching nylon zipper to access the concealed carry compartment. Okay, next we have Tammy. Tammy is carrying the versatile concealed carry holster that works well with our belt or yours. It can be configured for a strong side cross draw or small at the back.